Thanks for pressing play. Brian here at Fitzpatrick's Garage, Kildare. I want to show you this car here. 1.5 VTEC turbo, 182 brake horsepower. This is a Honda Civic and it's also a GT spec in the CVT gearbox. At this point in the video, I'd normally put a montage together with some music, but you know what? I prefer the sound of this car. I really love these cars. I love the way they drive, I love the way they look. So in this video, we're going to have a look around the features that are on the outside of the car, and we're going to have a look at the features that are on the inside of the car, and we're going to have a drive in the car as well. So 086 843 1945 if you want information on the car, if you want information about financing, or if you want information on trading in, give me a shout, call, text, WhatsApp, whatever suits, and I'll be happy to run through any of the information you want. Brian is my name, and Fitzpatrick's here is a family-run business in operation for almost 70 years. Like I was saying, I'm really enthusiastic about these cars because 1.5s have some nice unique features, and the fact that this is a GT model also has some even more unique features. This colour, so as we were saying, brilliant sport blue. This car in a lot of these shots was actually dirty at the time because I drove the car home for the first weekend that we had the car in, and it still looks damn cool even when it's dirty. This model so is the 10th generation of Civic, which is I think the most aggressive looking, and the turbocharged 1.5 VTEC engine is €280 a year for road tax. It's really efficient, as you'll see, and it accelerates really good, as you'll see. Personally, I normally tell people these cars will average somewhere in the region of 6 to 6.5 litres per 100 kilometres, but as you see, I covered 70 kilometres in this car, averaging 5.6 litres per 100 kilometres. That's nearly 50 odd miles per gallon. Anyway, let's start off on the outside by looking at the features that make the car really aggressive looking. One of the most notable things on these cars is that centre exhaust. This is only on the 1.5 turbocharged version. And this GT also has those really cool LED headlights, which are dipped headlights and full lights and daytime running lights, as well as indicators, and even things like the front fog lights also have the LED treatment as well. When you get around to the back of the car, you'll see the tail lights are also a nice LED setup. Other things that are unique to the 1.5 are the nice skirts on the rear, the skirts that are on the side, and on the front bumper from left to right, there's also a nice skirt underneath that just makes it a little bit lower and more aggressive looking. And while there's loads of safety in these cars, there's one really cool feature I always like, which is the blind spot indicator. So when someone's driving up beside you in a position that you can't see outside your visual field, the warning lamp illuminates on the wing mirror as well as makes a noise. And it's just always something I associate with really upmarket cars. So it's a really good feature, but it actually kind of looks cool as well. And on the same theme, there's headlight washers on the car as well, which again is always something that I've always associated with high-end cars. As a GT then, this car has keyless entry and also keyless start-stop. So in this case, this is the key for the car. So I've got buttons which are lock, unlock, and I can also unlock the boot, but really nobody's going to use it like that. You're going to use it in the keyless function. So first of all, to start the car, I've got a start stop button over here. And when I want to get in and out of the car, what I'm going to do is leave the key in my pocket, and I'm going to walk up to the car, put my hand in, and I can unlock it. Or similarly, if I want to lock it, I'm going to walk away, I'm just going to press this button here, and it locks the doors and retracts the wing mirrors for me. And what's also cool on these cars as well is you can use the key to completely open all the windows and the sunroof, as well as similarly retract the wing mirrors, as well as close the sunroof and the windows. This example then is a one-owner car from new. There is a medical professional that used to own the car who has now emigrated. The car has a full Honda service history, and we're going to supply it with a service complete. The reason I really love these cars is they're different than everything else. They're a unique car, but they have good power, but they're still not difficult to run in terms of road tax and fuel. And what's kind of neat on this one is you can still have an automatic car, which is super comfortable, but it has 7 simulated gears for driving pleasure. And that's the thing, there is no point in buying a car like this unless one of the things that you're looking for is a car that's actually interesting to drive, as well as being interesting to look at and well specified. Anyway, let's have a look around how this car drives. The seating position is really low in these cars if you want, and that's kind of generally accepted as being a sporty way to drive. And the steering wheel has excellent rake reach, so you can really get set up into a nice position with the car. In terms of the driving experience on these, the automatic is something that I would have always initially discounted, but the more I drive it now, I really like it since this car came out. So at the moment I'm sitting in a D mode, which is a more conservative kind of drive pattern. It's nice and comfortable, and the idea with these continuously variable transmission gearboxes is they keep the revolutions as low as possible in order to use as little fuel as possible. There is paddles on the steering, which we'll see in a sec, and then obviously there's a sport mode which is much more aggressive as well. On roads like these kind of back roads and pretty much any road in general, the Civic is a wide car. This newer version, it's much wider than the previous model, like the 15 and 16 model, and each corner has independent suspension. Again, the whole idea, I suppose, it adds up to a car that feels really kind of sure-footed on a road, so it gives you much more confidence because you feel that the car is actually stable going into all sorts of bumps and bends and stuff. And again, we're only doing 70 kilometers an hour here, but I feel really confident in the car. And the other thing as well, then, it also has a mode down through here, which I'll show you in a sec, which actually stiffens the suspension, which once applied then means the car won't actually roll and pitch as much as a normal car. Like what we're saying, so the D mode is much more relaxed and comfortable type of drive, but it still allows good acceleration. So we're coming onto a road which is 100 kilometers an hour. So if I floor the car, that is 100 kilometers an hour. And once we've reached the cruising speed, then the engine revolutions drop very much back down as low as they can, again to increase fuel efficiency while we're cruising like this. If you want to go into the S mode while you're driving, all you're going to do is pull back in the stick, back into S, and straight away I can actually feel the engine revolutions have gone up higher. That means we can still cruise like this, but it's less efficient. But it just means when I put my foot down, I've got a more immediate burst of speed. So 88, 89, 90, and then that's 100 straight away. And on a personal note, I like having the paddles here. So these paddles here will go down through the gears, whereas these ones will go up through the gears. So this when you're slowing down, this one when you're speeding up through here. In terms of acceleration then from 0 to 60, so I'm just going to go back into S, and we're going to start off. The road is clear, we're joining the motorway, so floored. That's 60 kilometers an hour. That's 100 kilometers an hour. Into the 120 zone. That's 120. These cars really don't hang about, and what I really love in the automatic is it never gets any turbo lag. It's constantly pulling. Manual car between gears, you get a bit of turbo lag. The automatic, you don't. Apologies about the poor camera work there. You just, in that case, there's nowhere else. You have to wedge the phone in and leave it there if you want to record something like that. Anyway, the thing about it is, as I was saying to you, I think the automatic, dare I say it, I think is actually quicker than the manual because it never gets a chance to have that turbo lag like you do between manual cars normally with turbochargers. Anyway, let's have a look to see what kind of features are on the inside of this GT model. Sitting in the car then, this is the view that you're going to see. So the first thing is, off to your right hand side, you got the start stop button that we talked about a little while ago, and down here are controls for front and rear parking sensors, as well as things like lane departure warning and collision mitigation, and things like how you wash the headlamps. For anyone that's interested, I can give you a much more detailed video, but just a quick overview along here is things like adaptive cruise control. And what that's going to do is it's going to follow the car in front, but you also decide when you have the cruise control on, how far do you want to stay behind the person in front. And like what we said, the car will warn you when you drift out of lane, but you can also set up from that steering wheel a lane keep, which is actively going to move your steering to try and keep you centered. Wipers are completely automated, and headlights are also automated as well. So what's quite nice about the headlamps is, if you turn them on, we'll say, and you leave them on daytime, nighttime, the nighttime ones come on when it gets dark, and they'll go to full when you go to an unlit area, and when you meet traffic, they'll dip by themselves. For anyone that's interested, I can give you a much more detailed video, but just a quick overview along here is things like adaptive cruise control. And what that's going to do is it's going to follow the car in front, but you also decide when you have the cruise control on, how far do you want to stay behind the person in front. And like what we said, the car will warn you when you drift out of lane, but you can also set up from that steering wheel a lane keep, which is actively going to move your steering to try and keep you centered. Again, just giving you an idea, this is exactly what you'll see in front of you when you're driving the car. Over on your left hand side then is going to be controls for radio and Bluetooth, and in through there is your trip computer for average speed, fuel efficiency. It also tells you the current speed zone you're in when you pass speed signs. Lots of other information about servicing, but the main one I like is, because I'm 10 years old mentally, is this one here, which is telling you the boost gauge, how much boost the turbo is running. And like we talked about earlier, we've got our paddles on either side of the steering wheel. Down to the centre then, the gearbox is so simple. Park, reverse goes backwards, drive goes forward, and then we've an S mode, which is much more aggressive. As I said a while ago, you can adjust the suspension along through here, which stiffens us up when you turn it on, and things like automatic park brake is located in through here. And because this is a GT then, you get a wireless charging setup in through here. And like a lot of Civics, you will have dual zone climate control, but because the GT, you'll get heated seats on both sides. The radio up to the centre then is going to have things like a reverse camera, which is a number of different modes, but what's cool on a GT as well is it also has traffic cross monitor. So it just means, like we saw already, the mirrors can do it, but on the rear camera, when someone's outside your visual field, it'll warn you somebody is going to come into your visual field, just like it is right now. So it's actually picking up cars that are driving past even before they get into the camera. Let me show you. So in this case, this is shining or lighting up or making noise before the car has actually entered the visual field of the camera. After that then, the radio has all the functionality you'd expect of a radio, things like audio for media, which is going to be streaming music via Bluetooth or using a USB connector, or just generally things like FM. Navigation, which is Garmin navigation in through here, and then after that you're going to have phone information for playing music or taking calls. Smartphone connection though is going to be things like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so you can have things like Google Maps and all the functionality that's on your phone, even things like apps like Spotify and stuff like that, so really cool. And because this is a GT, it's got a sunroof, which is definitely very rare in cars these days. Big panoramic sunroof. And on a day like that, when the weather's lovely, it's just nice to let the light into the cabin. So I think that's a really cool feature, and it's unique to a GT model. Things like as well, the rear view mirror in this car is electrochromatic, so when someone drives up behind you, it darkens itself at night time. And one thing I forgot, and I haven't actually gone off and changed my clothes on purpose, I actually forgot. I'm so caught up in going through the sporty aspect of the car. This car does have an extremely practical element. So if I sit into the car, because some people buy cars like this as a family car. And it is one thing that I like about them. It is sporty, but it can still do the practical stuff as well. So driver's seat is nice dark cloth, and it's got things like height adjuster and lumbar support for lower back. And then the rear of the car has privacy glass all around. It's got an armrest in through the centre with drinks holders. It's got three 3-point safety belts. It's got my handprint over here, as you can see. And then after that, there is kangaroo pockets on either side. And in terms of space, sitting in the car, if you're 6 foot, this is the headroom you're going to have. And actually what's nice, it's all black cloth up through here as well, so it's kind of sporty. Tweeters over here, speakers down through there, same in the front. Legroom, if I was sitting behind myself, that's what I get, so it's pretty good in terms of room. And one thing, we have one of these cars at home, it's a 1 litre mind you, but the ISOFIX is brilliant in them. Whatever angle it's at, it's so easy to get a child seat in and out. But here's the thing, the boot is massive. It's one thing I always noticed on these cars, when we were going on holidays, we always used to bring a Honda Civic over the last couple of years, because the boot's ridiculous. This one, as I was saying to you, just hasn't actually been cleaned properly yet, but it will be soon. But it's the load area. You don't have this tray in the middle because that slides out of the way quite easily. So it's a massive load area for the load that's there. So you're just not restricted in any way whatsoever. The saloon technically has a bigger boot, but this is way more usable. And for anyone that's got an awkward load, you can just flatten down the seat and you really pretty much end up with a car style van. And so that's the thing about it, you actually end up with a car that's sporty and it's cool and it's still actually practical, and it's a practical family car with a dual exit exhaust and 182 horsepower. And finally, I forgot to mention as well, as we were saying, the car has tweeters and it has speakers in all the doors, and it's got extra speakers up here. It's got premium audio because it's a GT. So there you have it, that is our GT Turbo VTEC Honda Civic. If there's information you want on the car, 086 843 1945, Brian is my name. Please do not hesitate to give me a shout if you want to know about the car or financing or trading in. And if you've been watching on YouTube and you think the video is useful, please do like and subscribe, because it lets me know the video is useful. So thanks a million for taking time to watch. Hopefully the car is of interest and hopefully the video has been useful.